The stars above Kepler 442b no longer shone like beacons of wonder. They flickered like dying candles through the poison skies. The great crystal towers that once pulsed with living light stood broken, their surfaces cracked and fatting. Beneath the ground, the last of the Zapirian people huddled in cavern shelters, their glowing bodies dimmed with fear. High Commander Velter stood before the ancient communication chamber, his crystalline form trembling as the last defense shields rattled under distant bombardment. Beyond the planet's orbit, the Thrakari swarm floated like a storm cloud of knives. Their living ships, vast blackened hulks of bone, sinew, and chitin, waited to descend, patient as predators that had cornered prey. For 3 years, world after world had fallen to the swarm. The Thrakari did not simply conquer. They consumed. Every tree, every animal, every thinking being was broken down into parts, then remade into more of themselves. Civilizations that had stood for millennia were erased in weeks. The Zapirians had begged for help. They had offered everything, their libraries of knowledge, their energy systems that could power suns, the coordinates of untouched garden worlds. But the galaxy had grown silent. Allies locked themselves behind fortress walls. Traders vanished into deep space. Even the great warrior races fled when they heard the word Thrakari. Now there was no one left to call. Velter's crystalline hand hovered over the final activation switch. His voice shook with desperation as he began. "This is High Commander Velter of the Zapirian Republic. The Thrakari swarm will reach our world in 2 days. We have nowhere left to run. We offer everything, our science, our worlds, our lives, to anyone who will save our children." His voice carried across the stars, traveling on quantum bands, on radio waves, on anything that might still reach a listening ear. When he finished, silence answered him. Silence, except for the dull vibrations of enemy ships filling his skis. For long moments, Velter remained still. He had expected nothing else. The galaxy was drowning in death cries. Who would risk everything for one dying world? And yet, somewhere, on a small blue planet that most civilizations had overlooked, someone was listening. Deep underground in Colorado, Admiral Jake Morrison sat in a steel chair in the Earth Coalition's command bunker. Screens glowed around him, maps of the galaxy, enemy reports, intercepted transmissions. The alien message played again, the strange crystal voice heavy with despair. Colonel Lisa Park leaned over her tablet, her sharp eyes scanning the Zapirian offer. "Sir, if this is real, their technology could leap us forward hundreds of years. Unlimited energy, faster-than-light breakthroughs, agricultural cures. This is everything we've ever dreamed of." Captain Roy Chen, young but brilliant, spoke quickly. "But the enemy, sir, the Thrakari, a hive mind. Think of army ants, except each ant is the size of a battleship. They swarm in numbers that can blot out the stars. They consume everything they kill. Every new body becomes another weapon." General Hayes, white-haired and weary, slammed his hand on the table. "With respect, Admiral, we don't have the ships for this. 42 combat vessels, that's all, most of them experimental. Even our fastest craft would take months to reach that system. It's suicide." The room fell silent. Only the hum of air filters filled the void. Morrison stood slowly, his tall frame casting a long shadow across the tactical map of Earth's solar system. His hands bore scars from old battles. His voice was calm, almost quiet. "How many wars has humanity fought, Kevin?" Hayes blinked. "Thousands, sir, maybe tens of thousands." "And in how many of those were we the biggest and strongest?" Colonel Park answered first, her voice steady. "Almost never, sir. We survived by being smarter, by being hungrier, by refusing to die." Morrison's lips curved into a smile, but it was not kind. It was the smile of a predator remembering its nature. "Prep the fleet," he ordered. "All 42 ships, wake special operations, wake everything we've kept hidden." No one argued. Orders rippled outward like a shockwave. Across the Pacific Ocean, under a research base deep below Japan's seafloor, tanks stirred where humanity's most dangerous creatures were stored. In secret shipyards behind the moon, black ships that had never appeared in any official record powered up for the first time in years. The world shook itself awake. On Kepler 442b, High Commander Velter bowed his head in despair. The silence after his transmission was absolute. Then, impossibly, an old radio wave frequency flickered to life. "Zapirian Command," a human voice spoke across the void. It was deep, steady, filled with something that was not pity, not fear, something older. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Coalition Fleet. We received your call for help. We are coming. Prepare to receive military support and humanitarian aid. Estimated time of arrival, 72 hours. Velter's crystal body blazed with sudden light. Hope. Impossible hope. Even as the swarm darkened his skis, even as logic told him it was madness, the words burned brighter than any star. Help was coming. From Earth. And in the shadows of space, the Thrakari swarm stirred. They had no word for fear. Not yet. The Leviathan rose from its cradle behind the far side of the moon, its engines burning blue fire for the first time in half a decade. The great ship was no sleek star yacht like the Andromedans built, no shimmering construct of crystal or light like the Zapirians once created. The Leviathan was ugly, brutal, its hull plated with adaptive armor that looked like scales on some prehistoric beast. It was not meant to impress. It was meant to terrify. On its bridge, Commander Alex Turner stood rigid at his station. His crew moved with practiced silence, running final checks on systems the galaxy had never seen before. Beneath the ship's decks, sealed in containment tanks behind layered walls, Earth's most dangerous secret waited. Things that did not appear in textbooks, things brought back from extinction. Turner's voice was low, steady. Status report. Lieutenant Bobby Martinez, steady-handed and young, looked up from his console. All hunter-killer pods are loaded, biocontainment secure. Dr. Vasquez reports her specimens are ready for deployment. Turner nodded once. It was enough. The Leviathan was ready for war. Elsewhere in the deep-sea facility near Japan, Dr. Elena Vasquez moved through the laboratory with a grim focus. Around her, tanks glowed with cold light, illuminating the shapes that drifted within. Organisms dredged from the deepest trenches of Earth's oceans, creatures that had survived crushing pressure, volcanic vents, and eternal darkness. Her assistant, Dr. Frank Lopez, tapped a display nervously. Specimens are stable. Pressure-adapted hunters show high activity in vacuum simulations. Radiation feeders are thriving on energy inputs that should kill anything else. They're hungry. Elena stopped at the largest tank, watching as a silhouette drifted past. The bulk of it was massive, shark-like, but twisted by time and gene modification. Good, she said quietly. We're going to feed them. She remembered the briefing. Weaponize Earth's evolutionary nightmares. For most, it would have been a moral dilemma, but Elena knew better. The Thrakari converted every life they touched into more of themselves. If humanity did nothing, the swarm would eventually find Earth. Let them call us monsters, she whispered to herself, as long as we win. The UES Kraken lit its engines next. Unlike the Leviathan, its power came not from living cargo but from the manipulation of environments. Its atmospheric processors were designed to strip entire planets bare, to twist breathable air into something hostile and lethal. Captain Ruth Collins stood at the command dais, short-haired and iron-eyed, as her crew activated the systems. To Zapirians, to Andromedans, to any other species, such weapons were unthinkable, immoral. But Earth had never fought wars like the galaxy did. Earth fought to survive. Deploy atmospheric drones for testing, she ordered. Let's see if the air itself remembers how to kill. In orbit above, the UES Wendigo powered up its shadowy systems. Unlike the others, it carried no traditional weapons. Instead, its vast chambers were filled with broadcasting arrays. Its job was not to kill directly, but to unmake courage itself. Captain Nathan Cross, a man who had studied fear as both a weapon and a disease, stood with his hands folded behind his back. The ship's systems hummed around him. Load the database, he ordered calmly. Technicians obeyed, filling the Wendigo's network with sounds and signals refined from Earth's darkest hours. The electromagnetic screams of asteroid impacts that once ended ages, the vibrations of glaciers grinding continents apart, the subsonic growl of predators that had stalked humanity's ancestors in the night. Fear, Cross whispered, pure and true. Let's see if the swarm knows what it feels like. At the heart of the hidden fleet waited the UES Predator. Sleek, sharp, its hull black as midnight, it carried Admiral Jake Morrison himself. But more than that, it carried Earth's most dangerous experiment. Dr. Maya Singh stood at her console, quick-eyed, fingers dancing across screens. In the Predator's containment bays, tanks hissed open and ancient nightmares stirred. Megalodons, once lords of ancient oceans, enhanced with quantum sensors and cybernetic fins. Packs of velociraptors, their pack instincts linked through neural networks, their hunting coordination sharper than any swarm's hive mind. And at the center, a singular beast, the Leedzik, a monstrous predator from Earth's prehistoric seas, genetically modified to adapt to anything it touched. Maya's voice trembled as she reported. Specimens are stable, neural coordination systems are online, they are learning. Admiral Morrison watched the feeds. His blue eyes were cold, merciless. Good, he said. They'll need to learn fast. Captain Danny Walsh, tactical officer, frowned at the screen filled with monsters. Sir, with respect, this isn't war, it's extermination. Morrison didn't look away from the feed. That's exactly what it needs to be. On Kepler 442b, High Commander Velter received Morrison's message again, replaying it on loop. 72 hours. His crystal body flickered with hope and fear both. Prepare landing zones, he ordered his aides. Prepare to receive Earth. The Zapirian scientists whispered among themselves. Who were these humans? Their ships were primitive, their numbers laughable, yet their message burned like fire. The galaxy had given up, the humans had not. Velter's second-in-command, a younger crystal being named Cyril, tilted his head. Commander, what if they cannot stand against the swarm? What if this is false hope? Velter looked at him, the glow of his body brightening. Then we will die standing beside those who tried, not hiding like those who ran. Far out in the dark, the Thrakari hive mind registered movement. Signals, 42 ships, primitive designs. The swarm intelligence recorded the data, calculating, adjusting. New species detected. Low threat assessment. Ships, metallic. Engines, primitive chemical and ion drives. Weapons, unknown. Probability of rapid conversion, 98%. The swarm did not know fear. But for the first time, as it focused on those signals, something stirred in its ancient memory, a flicker of instinct buried deep in the genetic soup of its stolen flesh. A warning, faint and half-forgotten. Predators. Back on the UES Predator, Admiral Morrison stood before his crew. His voice carried through the command decks, broadcast to every ship in the fleet. Every civilized race has fled from the Thrakari. Every empire has locked its doors, but humanity was not built in fortresses. We were built in caves with predators waiting outside. We survived ice, fire, famine, extinction. We survived each other. And we learned one lesson above all others, when something hunts you. He paused, his scarred hands gripping the console before him. His eyes blazed. You hunt it back. The fleet roared approval. 42 ships against thousands, against impossible odds, against extinction itself. And so the hunters woke. The Kepler 442 system shimmered with unnatural light as the Thrakari moved into position. To Zapirian eyes, the swarm resembled a sickness spreading through space. Thousands of biomechanical warships, their hulls alive with pulsing organic tissue, arranged in a vast formation around the planet. They blocked starlight like storm clouds, their presence so overwhelming that it crushed hope out of the air itself. High Commander Velter stood inside the crystalline walls of the last functioning command center. His people whispered around him, their glowing bodies dim with despair. He stared upward at the skis where the swarm gathered, and for a moment he wondered if the human's promise had been a dream. Then the alarm sounded. Unidentified vessels entering system, a Zapirian officer cried, his body flickering with shock. 42 ships, small signatures, primitive drives. The room fell silent. Could this be them? Could this be Earth? The display bloomed with light as human ships burst into the system. The first vessel was the UES Predator, black and sharp as a knife's edge, its armored hull bristling with strange, unknown systems. It cut through space with the slow menace of something that had no need to hurry. Around it, the Leviathan, Kraken, Wendigo, and dozens of smaller escort craft flared into existence, their primitive engines pushing them forward with unmistakable purpose. They did not spread wide, did not scatter or posture. They moved as a pack, tight and coordinated. In the Zapirian control chamber, the silence stretched thin. These are humans, Cyril whispered, his crystalline form flickering pale. 42 ships against thousands. But Velter felt something he hadn't in years, not logic, not calculation, something older, something like fire. Yes, he said softly, this is Earth. Inside the swarm, the hive mind studied the newcomers. Species identified, human. Population, approximately 8 billion. Threat assessment, minimal. Ships, metallic hulls, primitive propulsion, limited energy shielding. Estimated resistance duration, less than one planetary rotation. The Hive's decision came instantly. A probe swarm of 100 assault forms broke off from the main fleet, surging forward toward the humans. They were vast, whale-sized creatures of fused chitin and steel, their weapons made of living plasma organs. For the Thrakari, this was routine. They would test these humans, analyze their tactics, and adapt, as they had with 47 other species. But the Thrakari did not know what Earth had brought. On the Wendigo's bridge, Captain Nathan Cross watched the probe swarm approach. His voice remained calm, unshaken. Prepare to broadcast, load sequence alpha. The ship's technicians exchanged uneasy glances. They had trained for this moment, but even training could not prepare one for what they were about to unleash. Signal ready, Captain. Then give them Earth, Cross ordered. The Wendigo pulsed with energy. Across every channel, every spectrum, invisible waves screamed outward. Not random noise, not chaos, but carefully chosen frequencies, vibrations, sounds, and signals drawn from Earth's deepest nightmares. The subsonic growl of predators hunting in the dark, the thunder of glaciers crushing continents, the electromagnetic shriek of asteroid impacts that had ended ages, and woven through it all, the primal, ancient cries of prey dying in the night. The Thrakari probe swarm faltered. For the first time in their history, units of the Hive broke formation. Some turned in jagged loops, their movements erratic. Others froze in place, their organic components spasming with instinctual terror. The Hive mind recoiled in confusion. Error, unknown stimulus detected, organics resisting command protocols, signal interference unclassified. On the Predator's bridge, Admiral Morrison watched the chaos spread through the enemy formation. He did not smile. His voice was sharp, surgical. Phase 1 is working. Now show them Phase 2, release the hunters. On the Leviathan, alarms flared as containment bays opened. Metal doors slid back with heavy finality, and into the void of space poured shapes not seen in millions of years. The first were the deep-sea hunters, creatures dredged from Earth's trenches, modified to endure the vacuum. Their forms writhed like shadows, bioluminescent lures flickering, massive jaws snapping with cybernetic precision. Sharks, squids, serpents, predators reborn as living weapons. They moved through space as if it were water, silent, calculating. A Thrakari cruiser living ship opened fire, belching streams of plasma. The hunters darted aside, vanishing into the black, then struck from blind angles. Biomechanical hulls tore open under pressure jaws designed to crush mountains. The swarm mind reeled. Impossible, organisms surviving vacuum. Adaptive predation detected, casualty reports increasing. The probe swarm began to collapse. Units shrieked in strange, broken harmonies as ancient terror flooded through them. For the first time in recorded history, the Thrakari felt something alien, something unprocessed, something their collective had no word for. Fear. In the Zephyrian command chamber, officers cried out in shock as human monsters shredded the probe swarm. The sight was terrifying, nightmares unleashed into the stars. Cyril trembled. Commander, they are not soldiers, they are hunters. Velter's body glowed brighter, filled with awe. Yes, hunters who fight for us. The Hive mind pulled back its surviving probes, a rare move. Retreat. Analysis. Regroup. It spoke across the quantum frequencies, its voice a chorus of millions. Humans, identify purpose, state intentions. Admiral Morrison opened the channel, his voice carrying across the system. Calm, cold, unflinching. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of Earth. You've spent centuries consuming civilizations. You think yourselves the apex predators of this galaxy. He paused, his scarred hands gripping the railing. Dinosaurs thought that too. The words confused the swarm, meaningless in context. But the tone carried something ancient and lethal, something that even the Hive mind could not dismiss. Unit 7742, a central swarm commander, processed the sound, and for the first time in its long existence, it hesitated. On the Predator's bridge, Morrison gave his final command. All ships prepare for Phase 3. Tonight, the swarm learns what extinction really means. The human fleet surged forward, hunters unleashed, fear pounding through the void like a storm. The first true battle between Earth and the Thrakari had begun. And for the first time in living memory, the swarm did not advance with certainty. It advanced with doubt. The void shook with violence. The first wave of the swarm's probe vessels was gone, shredded by deep-sea horrors and shattered by invisible fear signals from the Wendigo. Yet the battle was far from over. From the darkness beyond Kepler 442b, the main swarm moved. Over 1,800 biomechanical ships surged forward, each one a fortress of bone and steel, each one pulsing with stolen life. They came in formations as tight as shoals of fish, overwhelming in number, terrifying in unity. In the Zapirian command chamber, crystal bodies flickered with despair. Cyril whispered, "So many, no fleet can stand against this." High Commander Velter did not answer. His gaze was fixed on the human fleet, those 42 ships that moved not like prey but like predators circling for the kill. On the Predator's bridge, Admiral Morrison studied the tactical display. His jaw was tight, his voice sharp. "They're committing their main force," Captain Danny Walsh reported. 1,800 confirmed, sir, that's 40 to 1. "Numbers," Morrison said flatly, "are their weapon. Numbers are what they trust." He turned to Dr. Maya Singh. "It's time to show them what happens when numbers mean nothing. Phase 3 is authorized. Wake the prehistorics." Maya's throat went dry. She had worked her whole life in labs, studying DNA, mapping ancient genetics, testing resurrection theories. But nothing had prepared her for this. She keyed in the activation codes. Containment doors opening, specimens are waking. In the Predator's cavernous cargo bays, tanks hissed and split apart. Freezing mist poured outward as shapes the size of houses shifted and stirred. For millions of years they had been dead. Now, through Earth's science and Earth's hunger for survival, they were reborn. The first to emerge was the Megalodon. Massive, jawed monsters the length of small ships, their teeth like swords, their eyes augmented with quantum sensors that could lock onto prey across kilometers. Once they had hunted whales in ancient oceans. Now they swam through space as though it were water, their thruster implants flaring like tails. Behind them came the raptors, sleek, deadly, enhanced with cybernetic implants that linked their hunting instincts into a single network. Each one was a nightmare of speed and precision, but together they were more than a pack. They were an army with one mind sharpened to a killing edge. And then the Leedzik. The bay shook as the great beast unfurled. Its body rippled with adaptive genetics, its scales shifting colors, its organs reprogramming themselves to devour anything they touched. It was vast, older than imagination, a predator that had once been the terror of entire seas. Enhanced now, its intelligence flickered in dark eyes that scanned the void with terrible curiosity. Dr. Singh whispered to herself, half in awe, half in dread, "What have we unleashed?" The swarm detected them instantly. Thousands of sensor organs pulsed with recognition. Organisms detected. Size massive, biology unknown, environment incompatible, survival probability 0. The hive's conclusion was instant, impossible anomalies. And then the anomalies attacked. The megalodons hit first, their colossal jaws tearing through Thrakari cruisers as if they were prey whales. Their cybernetic sensors tracked weak points, their implants coordinated attacks. A single bite collapsed a warship's living hull, spraying frozen gore into the void. The raptors darted next, weaving between ships with impossible precision. Their neural links shared data in real time, predicting the swarm's movements before they happened. Entire formations of Thrakari were isolated and dismantled, their vessels gutted with surgical strikes. But it was the Leedzik that changed everything. The beast surged forward, its body glowing with shifting patterns. Plasma struck it, but it adapted instantly, scales hardening, skin reprogramming, flesh consuming the energy. It coiled around a Thrakari dreadnought, its jaws opening wide, and in a single horrifying moment it devoured the ship whole. The hive mind screamed across its channels. Adaptive predator confirmed, biological impossibility, counter-strategy failure, casualties escalating. The swarm had absorbed species across 47 civilizations. It had never faced anything that evolved faster than it could copy. Until now. On the Predator's bridge, the crew watched the impossible unfold. Raptors carving through swarms like wolves among sheep. Megalodons hunting warships like fish. The Leedzik devouring dreadnoughts as if they were nothing more than prey. Walsh turned to Morrison, his face pale. "Sir, this isn't war, it's extinction." Morrison's eyes never left the display. "That's the point." The Zapirians watched in stunned silence as human monsters tore the sky apart. Cyril's voice shook. "Commander, what kind of species unleashes such things?" Velter's crystal body brightened, burning with strange pride. "A species that has never forgotten how to hunt." In the Swarm's collective, Unit 7742 sent a desperate transmission. "Enemy tactics incomprehensible. Objective unclear, casualties mounting, request reinforcements." The main hive answered with confusion. "Explain, how do these tactics differ from conventional war?" Unit 7742 hesitated. It watched as raptors struck down ships in coordinated ambushes, as megalodons circled and killed like wolves around a herd, as the Leadzik learned faster than the hive could process. Finally, it answered, "This is not war, this is hunting." Back on the Predator, Admiral Morrison leaned toward the comms. His voice was steady, cold, final. "Swarm Commander, you have mistaken us for a civilization. We are not. We are predators with tools, and when something threatens our pack, we hunt it down." The words carried across every frequency. The Wendigo amplified them, laced with fear, turning Morrison's voice into something primal and inevitable. In the Swarm's vast mind, for the first time, one thought spread faster than any order. "We are prey." As the first dreadnoughts fell and the Swarm formations began to collapse, Morrison gave the order that would decide the fate of the battle. "All ships drive them back, no quarter. Tonight the galaxy remembers what Earth is." The hunters surged forward, and the void lit with the beginning of an extinction. The battle over Kepler 442b had become something the galaxy had never seen before. From orbit, it looked less like a clash of fleets and more like a feeding frenzy. Human ships moved in tight packs, supporting one another, weaving between the vast bulk of Swarm vessels. Around them, Earth's unleashed nightmares turned the void into a hunting ground. The megalodons circled formations of enemy cruisers, driving them into kill zones where raptors were waiting. The raptors darted in, claws and teeth augmented with surgical plasma cutters, ripping open biomechanical hulls with terrifying precision. And the Leadzik learned. Every ship it devoured taught it more. Every weapon it absorbed, it countered. When plasma beams burned, its scales shifted and hardened. When swarms of drone spawn tried to engulf it, its flesh reprogrammed to secrete toxins that dissolved them on contact. The hive had never met anything like this. In the command nexus of the swarm, Unit 7742 struggled to maintain order. Signals filled the collective mind: panic, disorder, contradiction. The Thrakari had never known such chaos. Retreat requested. Casualty ratio unsustainable. Unknown predators adapting beyond calculation. The main hive answered with fury. "No retreat, no surrender, swarm is eternal, destroy them." But the order fell flat. The hive's unity frayed. Across the battlefield, individual units began transmitting distress calls, something unheard of in their history. For the first time, the swarm's perfect harmony was breaking. Inside the Zapirian command chamber, officers gasped as the display shifted. "The swarm, they are pulling back," one cried. "They're retreating." Retreat was a word that had never been paired with the Thrakari. To see them, falter filled the Zapirians with awe and disbelief. Cyril turned to Velter, his body trembling with light. "The humans, they are winning." But Velter's glow remained steady. "No, they are hunting, the difference matters." On the Predator's bridge, Captain Walsh reported quickly. "Enemy vessels are scattering, breaking formation. Sir, they're trying to regroup on the far side of the system." Morrison's jaw tightened. "No, not regroup, they're trying to run." He turned to his crew, his voice ablade. "Signal all ships, pursue, do not let them escape." Lisa Park frowned from her station. "Sir, if we force them to retreat, the galaxy will see this as victory. They'll never threaten Kepler again." Morrison's scarred hand slammed against the console. "If we let them retreat, they'll rebuild, they'll adapt. They'll come back with new tricks, and next time maybe Earth is the one screaming for help." His eyes were steel. "No quarter, no survivors, this swarm dies here." The order spread like fire through the human fleet. On the Leviathan, Commander Turner's voice was steady. Deploy the second wave of hunters. Flush them out. On the Kraken, Captain Collins gave her command. Release atmospheric processors. Strip their biohulls down to bone. And on the Wendigo, Captain Cross leaned forward, his eyes cold. Open the fear channels wider. Don't let them think. Don't let them hope. The void erupted. From the Kraken's bays poured microscopic machines, invisible swarms of engineered bacteria and nanoviruses. They clung to Thrakari hulls, breaking down flesh and metal alike, eating through defenses faster than the hive could adapt. The Wendigo's fear broadcast pulsed across every frequency, shaking the swarm's fragile unity further apart. Ships began colliding as individual units tried to flee in contradictory directions. Their songs of unity, once a steady chorus, broke into panicked, discordant screams. The human hunters tore into the chaos. Raptors isolated stragglers, tearing them down in coordinated ambushes. Megalodons struck from the dark, their jaws snapping shut on vessels the size of cities. And the Leedzik, learning faster than ever, dived into the thickest cluster of swarm vessels and unleashed a roar that shook the very void. It had learned to project sound through the vacuum, converting energy into vibrations that shattered bioships from within. Dozens died in an instant. The swarm was breaking. Inside the hive, Unit 7742 transmitted desperately. This battle is unsalvageable. Enemy is not civilization. Enemy is Apex Predator Collective. Request permission to negotiate. The main hive fell silent. It had never considered negotiation, never spoken to prey except to mock before consuming. Yet now, survival instinct rippled even through its vast intelligence. Finally, it sent a signal. Offer surrender, withdraw from this sector, offer reparations, offer data of absorbed civilizations, preserve swarm continuity. On the Predator's bridge, the message came through. Walsh read it aloud. Sir, they're offering unconditional withdrawal, reparations for the Zapirians, access to all absorbed data, in exchange their survival. For a long moment, silence filled the bridge. This was it, the clean victory, the pragmatic choice. Humanity would be hailed across the stars as saviors and peacemakers. Dr. Maya Singh spoke softly. Sir, if we accept billions of lives are spared, we prove humanity can be more than monsters. Morrison's gaze turned to her. His eyes were pale blue, but in them burned something that made Maya's stomach twist. How many species did they consume, Doctor? 47, she whispered. How many voices begged for help like the Zapirians, and got silence in return? Billions. Morrison nodded slowly, then his voice cut like ice. Signal the fleet, no quarter given, no prisoners taken. Gasps filled the Predator's bridge. Walsh turned pale. Sir, that's genocide. Morrison's jaw hardened. No, Captain, that's justice. He turned back to the stars, where the swarm still scattered and screamed. They taught the galaxy that some species deserve extinction. Tonight, we teach them what that actually means. In the Zapirian command chamber, Velter received fragments of the human orders. His crystal body trembled as the meaning became clear. Cyril whispered, horrified, They will not stop. They will destroy the swarm completely. Velter's glow flickered. Was this salvation or the awakening of something worse? The screens above him showed the hunters closing in, tearing the swarm apart with unstoppable fury. The galaxy had always believed Earth was primitive, weak, backward. But what Velter saw now was something far older, far more dangerous. Predators answering a cry for help. Predators who would not stop until the hunt was done. The void above Kepler 442b was no longer a battlefield. It was a slaughterhouse. The Thrakari swarm, once feared across entire sectors of the galaxy, had become scattered prey. Their vast formations had collapsed into fractured pockets of resistance. Their voices, once unified in perfect hive harmony, now bled into the void in broken, discordant screams. And the hunters of Earth gave no mercy. On the Leviathan's bridge, Commander Turner stood with his crew bathed in the glow of tactical displays. Deep hunters deployed to Quadrant 4. Raptors are driving the survivors straight into them. Below decks, containment bays opened again, and more creatures, adapted from Earth's darkest oceans, slid into the void. Angler predators drifted forward with glowing lights, drawing Thrakari ships like moths before tearing them apart with teeth and mechanical claws. Lieutenant Martinez whispered, "Sir, they're running. They're actually running." Turner's voice was calm but hard. "Then chase them down, make sure they don't stop." The Kraken unleashed its final weapon. From its massive bays poured swarms of engineered microbes, invisible clouds that latched onto fleeing Thrakari ships. Within minutes, organic hulls softened, dissolved, and collapsed into sludge. Crews screamed across the HiveNet before their signals were cut short. Captain Ruth Collins watched without blinking. "Release atmospheric processors at full power," she ordered. "Let the air itself hunt." The Kraken's drones turned breathable gases into corrosive toxins, making even the void surrounding the swarm's ships feel hostile. There was no escape, no safety. On the Wendigo, Captain Cross stood over his fear technicians. "Push the resonance, let them choke on their own instincts." "Yes, Captain," Lieutenant Kim replied, her fingers flying over controls. The Wendigo pulsed with soundless waves. The Thrakari fleet convulsed in terror, their organic components breaking down under instincts that screamed flee, hide, die. Ships turned into one another. Thousands of voices cried out across the hive, not in unity, but in panic. For the first time in their history, the Thrakari hive knew what it meant to be prey. And then came the predator. Admiral Morrison stood tall at the heart of the bridge. "Dr. Singh," he ordered, "release the Apex Protocol." Her hands trembled. "Sir, if we do this, there will be nothing left. The swarm won't just be defeated, it will be erased. Forever." Morrison's pale eyes never wavered. "Exactly, do it." Maya hesitated, her conscience fighting against the cold inevitability of the order. But at last, her hands moved, and the final containment seals disengaged. From the Predator's bays, the prehistoric horrors poured forth. Megalodons streaked through the void, their jaws crushing dreadnoughts like prey whales. Velociraptor packs cut apart entire formations, moving with intelligence sharper than the hive itself. And the Leedzik, towering, vast, alive with shifting scales and adaptive hunger, sank into the swarm like a god of extinction. It had learned to devour their flesh. Now it learned to devour their signals. It struck at their quantum networks, absorbing their communications like a predator eating its prey's very voice. The hive's orders collapsed into silence, its unity shattered at the root. Unit 7742, still alive among the swarm, transmitted one final message. "We understand. You are not civilization, you are extinction itself." Its voice was swallowed by static as the Leedzik tore through its ship. On Kepler 442b, the Zephyrians watched in silence as the swarm dissolved. No one spoke. No one moved. Crystal bodies flickered with awe and terror both. Cyril whispered, "They will kill them all, every last one." High Commander Velter said nothing. His body burned bright as he watched hunters circle their dying prey. He had begged for salvation. Now he wondered if he had called down something worse. In the Predator's command center, Captain Walsh's face was pale. "Sir, surrender signals are still coming from isolated nodes. They're begging to be allowed to leave this sector." Morrison's expression was carved from stone. "Denied, this swarm dies tonight." Dr. Singh's voice broke. "Sir, this is genocide. The galaxy will call us butchers." Morrison turned to her, his voice quiet but sharp as steel. "Doctor, the galaxy already had its chance. They hid. They watched as world after world was consumed. They let the swarm grow fat on billions of lives. Now Earth answers, and when Earth answers, it doesn't stop halfway." He looked back at the void where predators hunted. The galaxy doesn't need another civilization that runs. It needs a predator that hunts the monsters. The swarm made one final attempt. The remnants of the hive clustered together, pulling their remaining strength into a massive, unified assault. Hundreds of ships charged the predator itself, the swarm's last desperate gamble. Walsh cried, "Sir, incoming mass formation. They're throwing everything at us." Morrison's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Good, they finally remembered how to fight." He slammed his hand down. "All ships, initiate extinction protocol, release everything." The order thundered through the fleet. From the Leviathan came more trench predators. From the Kraken, endless atmospheric scourges. From the Wendigo, fear made flesh in sound. And from the predator itself, the Leedzik roared as it tore into the swarm's heart. The void erupted in carnage. One by one, the Thrakari ships winked out, not disabled, not crippled, gone, consumed, shredded, erased. Minutes stretched into hours, hours stretched into silence. And then it was over. Where once 1,800 swarm ships had darkened the skies of Kepler 442b, not even debris remained. The void was empty, silent, final. On the Predator's bridge, Captain Walsh whispered, "It's done." Dr. Singh's face was pale, her eyes haunted. "We've exterminated an entire species." Admiral Morrison stood tall, his shadow long in the glow of dying displays. His voice was calm, unyielding. "No, we exterminated a plague. The galaxy may hate us for it. Let them." Tonight, humanity reminded the stars of one truth. He turned, his scarred hand brushing the console. Predators can be hunted too. High above Kepler 442b, the human fleet drifted in silence. 42 ships, battered but alive. The Zapirians' skis were clear for the first time in years. The swarm was gone. Extinction had come. But salvation had come with it. The stars above Kepler 442b shone clear for the first time in years. No swarm, no shadows, no predators waiting in orbit. The skis belonged to the Zapirians again. High Commander Velter stood in the rebuilt communication chamber. Around him, crystal bodies of his people flickered bright with relief. For the first time since the war began, their light pulsed not with fear but with cautious hope. On the main display, the image of Admiral Jake Morrison appeared, his face hard as steel, his pale eyes unblinking. The Predator floated in orbit behind him, its dark hull a silhouette of menace and salvation both. Velter bowed his head deeply. "On behalf of the Zapirian Republic, I thank you, Admiral. Without Earth, we would not exist. Our children would not live to see tomorrow. Our libraries, our cities, our people, everything would have been consumed." He gestured to the side. "The technology we promised is ready for transfer. Energy synthesis, star drive designs, the coordinates of untouched colonies. All yours freely." Morrison shook his head once. "Keep it." The chamber fell silent. Cyril, standing beside Velter, flickered in confusion. "But, Admiral, you came across the galaxy, you sacrificed, you fought, and now you ask nothing." Morrison's gaze swept across the crystalline council. "We didn't come for payment. We didn't come for trade. We came because you called for help." His voice sharpened, "And when Earth hears a cry for help, we answer." The words carried across Zapirian networks, recorded, replayed, whispered in awe. The people who had lived in terror for years finally knew the meaning of hope. But elsewhere, far beyond Kepler 442b, Morrison's words traveled further than any ship. Across the Andromedan fortress worlds, leaders listened in silence, their once-proud fleets hidden behind impenetrable walls. The citations, great whale-like wanderers, emerged from deep space, their songs heavy with relief. Even the warrior Karathi, who had fled instead of fought, sent cautious transmissions. The galaxy trembled with the same thought: Earth has awakened. In hidden stations across trade routes, whispers spread faster than light. The humans did not run. The humans did not hide. The humans hunted. Smaller civilizations, long too weak to defend themselves, began transmitting messages toward the Sol system. Not begging for rescue, not offering payment, just saying two words: thank you. But not all voices were thankful. On the Council worlds, powerful civilizations debated in fear and anger. The humans committed genocide, one ambassador hissed. They destroyed the swarm utterly. They had no right, another cried. This was not justice, it was extermination. But others, quieter, more thoughtful, whispered a different truth. The swarm consumed 47 civilizations. Earth stopped them. Perhaps it was necessary. And buried beneath the debate was a deeper fear. If humans could erase the swarm, what else could they erase? Back aboard the Predator, the crew worked in silence. Captain Walsh finally spoke, his voice heavy. "Sir, the Zapirians see us as saviors, but the Council worlds will see us as monsters." Morrison's scarred hand tapped the railing. "Let them." Dr. Maya Singh turned toward him, her eyes haunted. "Admiral, do you ever wonder what we've become? We built nightmares. We unleashed them without hesitation. We didn't just fight, we hunted them into extinction." Morrison's gaze turned to the stars beyond the viewport. His voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "Doctor, humanity has always been monsters. The only question is, who do we hunt?" On Kepler 442b, Velter stood before his people. His crystal body glowed like a beacon. The swarm is gone. Earth saved us when no one else would. Remember this day. Remember their words. For the first time in centuries, hope has returned to the stars. The Zappirian children, glowing faintly in the crowd, lifted their voices in soft, harmonic song. It was not a song of despair, nor of mourning, but of survival. And high above their world, the human fleet drifted like a pack of wolves at rest, silent but watchful. News of the battle spread like wildfire. To some, humanity became saviors, to others, executioners, but to all one truth became undeniable. The galaxy had found its apex predators, and they came from a small blue world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Weeks later, in a quiet chamber deep beneath Colorado, Morrison stood alone before a wall of star maps. His hand rested on the console, eyes tracing the countless worlds still untouched by war. Colonel Park entered quietly. "Sir, signals keep coming in, dozens of civilizations sending messages. Some ask for help, some offer alliance, some just say thank you." Morrison didn't turn, and some are afraid. "Yes, sir." He finally looked at her, his eyes calm but cold. "Good, let them be afraid, because now the galaxy knows when predators rise, Earth hunts them down." And so it was written across the stars. When someone called for help, Earth answered. And when someone dared to consume entire civilizations, Earth made certain they never did it again. The swarm was gone. The galaxy was changed. And humanity was no longer prey.